Hi, I'm Allison, and I'm going to jump right into the video today because it's already going to be really long. Hopefully I can have it out on Vimeo soon, and it'll be ad-free and free to access. So when I say image transfer onto glass, what I mean is that I'll be taking images that I've altered to be really high contrast and very black and white rather than grayscale or colorful, and I'll be moving the printer pigment onto a piece of glass. The white paper will be removed and the darker pigments will remain. Any kind of grayish areas will still look kind of foggy and gray. I'll give the fast summary for those who do a lot of work with image transfers, but please watch the rest of the video for more on how different variables can affect the process, what safety measures are important, and what pitfalls you might encounter. As always, results can vary with the humidity and temperature wherever you are, and with how old your medium is. For this project, I took high contrast pictures by capturing them on a digital microscope, this thing here, and then I sized them to be 3 inches by 1 inch so that they would fit the microscope slides that I'm using pretty neatly. It must be hard to see that, but there's a bunch of them here. The main medium is Liquitex glass medium. It's a heat-setting medium that has a very durable, glossy finish. I feel good enough about it to use it in art that I sell. I'll get into it more after this summary, but for the moment, I'm just going fast. So clean your glass with acetone or isopropyl alcohol. Zap the glass with a hairdryer if you use isopropyl alcohol especially, or if you just feel like there's some humidity in the air around you. The idea is just to get it as dry as possible so that there's as much opportunity for tack as a non-porous surface can have. So put a layer of medium on the glass. I'm using foam brushes to help with streaking. Just glove it on there. Take your high contrast picture, put a layer on there, and then put it face down on the piece of glass that you're using. Here, this comes out around the edges. That's bad. I'm going to cut that off later because before the medium is baked on, it can just peel off really easily if it gets caught. But so once you've got the medium on both surfaces and they're pressed together, you can turn it over and see if there are any bubbles that you need to chase out with your fingertips and just work them out. You don't even need to mirror the image you're using as long as you're only planning to show the shiny glass surface rather than the medium covered surface. So then leave it, paper side up so it can dry over a period of 6 hours to overnight. Overnight will always be better. So, counterintuitively, if you're in a rush, wait overnight because you may, just screw up all of your projects and test samples and all that if you only wait 6 hours. But once enough time has passed, like with a regular gel image transfer, just stamp in the back and rub off carefully. I use my fingertips instead of a sponge or something like that. It just works better for me. You need to get all the paper off the back so that it doesn't burn when you put it in the oven, because the correct ratio of glass medium to acrylic paint when a person is using it that way is 10% paint and 90% medium. So just taking out as much paper as possible and as much matter as possible, and then just removing anything that could catch on fire or brown in the heat is important. So once all that's done, put another layer of medium over the clear thing and wait for that to dry overnight again. Or after 6 hours, it should, the second stage should be fine in 6 hours. But, as always, do test preemptively. So at that point, you put it into the oven to do the heat setting. And for a lot of pieces of glass, that means just putting it into a cold oven, which is just turning it into an oven that is not turned on. And once it's in, you turn it on to 300 degrees. And then you wait for half an hour, turn it off, wait for it to cool. And when you know that the oven is cool again, take it out. And this is important because sudden temperature changes can have bad effects on glass and sometimes shatter it. And you don't want that in your oven. Because I'm using very small, thin microscope slides, I put it in a cold oven and then turn it up to about 125, and then slowly after that turn it up 50 degrees at a time. By the time I get to 300, I only leave it in for about 15 minutes. So you can see I've got some doubles of all of these, and I'm prepared to just repeat all of it if necessary, because these are quite tricky to do and as precisely as they must be done. Once it's baked, you let the oven cool off, take the glass out, and at that point, once the glass is totally cool, you can paint on the back of it or add varnish or whatever you would like to do, because that's now a surface that can be painted on and glued on, and painting can bring some detail back. But I'm planning to use more of a window effect with mine, so that won't be a focus in this video. Now I'm going to go through the materials one at a time and just say what they are and why I chose them and what might be best for you and stuff like that. To start, Liquitex glass medium. Make sure you get glass medium instead of gloss medium. I've made that mistake before. This is a heat setting medium that is excellent for creating surfaces with better tack on glass, and you can also mix it with acrylic paints to color it at a 10% paint, 90% medium ratio. The fact that it's heat setting means that you bake it in the oven. You have to be careful to put it in a cold oven, because glass can shatter if it's subjected to sudden temperature changes. I've done this a little bit before with microscope slides, so I have a little pre-existing knowledge from tests that I did, but be sure to do your own tests if you want a really good result. Liquitex glass medium is expensive though, and this is a $20 bottle. There is a comparable kind of heat setting medium that you can find in craft stores, and I think it's mostly made by Folk Arts. It's about $3 to $5 for a 2-ounce bottle though, which is cheaper, but I also consider how much do I miss because it's adhering to the edge of the bottle, and Liquitex is generally just a better brand for more professional work. Partly though that's because this is a known brand in the art world, but it is likely that it's considerably higher quality. Next, microscope slides. I'm using glass microscope slides for this project. They're 3 inches by 1 inch and about 1 millimeter thick to 1.2 millimeters thick. There's probably a little bit of variation between each slide. These are the images that I'm using. They're also 1 inch by 3 inches. I captured them with a digital microscope that connects to my computer with a USB cord. I made them black and white because I would like more of a window effect than a stained glass effect or a colorful effect. It lost a little bit of detail, but it looks better on glass. Last time I made something like this, I used an inkjet printer, and this was the result. There we go. This is a close-up of a butterfly wing. You can see it's got a bunch of scales here. I'm interested to see the difference it makes to use a LaserJet printer. Which you use depends on which you have access to, but keep in mind that some inkjet printers are better than others, just as some laser printers are better than others. I used a small, relatively cheap one that only prints in black and white for this. Common wisdom is that LaserJet printers are better for transfers than inkjets, but there is a lot of discussion around that, and I would encourage you to do more research on that if that's interesting to you. I'm using a Pyrex dish to put the slides in because it's oven safe, and I think it'll be easier to remove the glass slides from. Last time I just used a sheet of heat tempered glass, but I had to pry the slides off really carefully. I like that it's easier to move to. Different spots in my oven are different enough temperatures that some places will cause the images to bubble or brown at the same setting, that others a few inches to the left or right will be great looking. The next objects I'm going to talk about are rubbing alcohol versus acetone for cleaning the glass. A lot of the time people will recommend rubbing alcohol over acetone, but I think that's mostly due to coatings that are sometimes found on glass. If you use rubbing alcohol especially, zap the glass with a blow dryer afterwards to get rid of any residual dampness. Don't use anything marketed as nail polish remover though. It might have added scent and color and that will leave residue. I'm going to go with acetone for these. I think the real difference between acetone and rubbing alcohol for this is safety, meaning fumes. So it kind of depends on what ventilation you have most, in my opinion. Also, rubbing alcohol can come in different concentrations, and it's easy to accidentally end up with 70% when you want something more like 90% for this. This thing is cool, but I'm only mentioning it because I used it to capture the images that I'm using for this. You don't need a digital microscope for this, but they're cool. This one attaches by a USB to my computer. I'm using foam brushes for this because they'll help reduce streaking, and also I need to take care of the plumbing here. And just for safety reasons, I'll be able to take it outside when I'm done. This is a type of cup that I use for resin projects, because right now I need something that won't leave a residue. Use whatever you've got, but remember that it shouldn't have anything in it that will mix with the medium, because the chemical process here is super important. So that got boring and repetitive, and I'm gonna take a detour into something that's fun to look at if I can ever get these reflections on the surface to stop messing it up. This is a piece called Fracta. It uses the same techniques that I'm talking about today. What I did was reproduce images from Magic Lantern slides. These images are probably from the 30s or 40s. In the back you can kind of see there's a layer of eggshells. So it is this kind of fun mixed media use of this technique. So first I'm going to cut these images down a little bit so that I can kind of square them up on the slides. It might be better to do this with an X-Acto blade or a craft knife. I usually use Fiskars. So now I'm gonna clean off the glass, and I've gone with a glove for this because I don't want to get any grease on the edges of the slide. That's gonna keep it from bonding very well. I'm only doing one side because I'm only using the medium on one side. So something I'm finding is that the acetone is working for me right now, but it's partly because I'm using such small slides of glass. And if you're using a bigger surface, you may want to go with the rubbing alcohol, just because it won't dry as fast and you'll be able to have a longer time to clean between re-wetting the rag or whatever you're using. So right now what I'm doing is painting the medium onto the slides and onto the picture. I want to be as careful as I can not to get any medium on the front of the slide or the back of the picture, because it will bake onto the front of the slide, which you don't want, and that will make it stick to whatever you're baking it in. And if you accidentally get it on the back of the picture, though, that's even worse. You can clean it off the front of the slide before you put it in the oven, as long as it's only been maybe 6 or 7 hours. But if you get it on the back of the picture and it dries, then you can't rub the back of the paper off, and that's a problem. So let's try and get that in frame. Let's see. No medium on that side. I do see it's not quite sticking in these corners as well as I would like it to, so I'm going to pat that down a little bit. Before you put something down, make sure that there are no bubbles creeping around in there. See, a couple in here, but since it's glass, I can just look right through to where they are and smooth them away. So, and then I want to be careful to put my stuff down on a non-porous drying surface, which this is, the board is metal, but I've put some stripes of packing tape over it. So it's 12 hours later, and I just got up. These are trials that I did at 4, 5, and 6 hours, and I'm about to find out what it looks like at 12 hours. Already I'm a lot more confident in it. You can see at 4 hours there is chipping around the edge, things peeling away, and it's just not holding on to the glass enough yet. It's a little better at 5, but this was too easy to scrape off, although that might have been because there was a bubble in it. And then at 6, still some chipping, but better. So let's see what we've got. I already got this a little bit wet, but you take your sponge or your spritzer bottle or whatever, just kind of dab on. And there are different methods for taking the excess paper off, but I just use my fingertips. And you can see it's working pretty well. I want to be careful to, with the microscope slide, to rub outwards, because otherwise I may be pulling the edge in and it's still not completely glommed on to the surface like it will be when I get them in the oven. So I've now taken the backs off of all the slides, and you can see that they're a little bit transparent now, but also still kind of milky. I'm gonna see if I can catch on camera when it gets a little less milky after the second layer goes on here. And then once they're baked, they'll be hopefully pretty clear, but anywhere that paper or pigment is left, not so much. So hopefully I've gotten almost all the paper off. Hopefully that is showing on the camera. So here they all are after baking. These are the complete slides. These are some images that they were taken from. I did use here some of the test slides that I showed you earlier in the video from 4, 5, and 6 hours in the stage 1 cure, because I didn't want to accidentally ruin the very best ones. So you can see some of the imperfections here, like there something has come off, and I suspect I held it like this or something, because I think that happens for 2 reasons. And one is getting grease from my hand on the edge of the glass, and another could be that I didn't cut the image down close enough to the size of the microscope slide, so that kind of would keep catching on things and make things peel away before it was baked in the oven. Although once it's baked, that stops. So over here I have this that I made a couple years ago. It's with an inkjet printer, but I don't want to do a stress test on any of the new ones that were just baked. But I do want to do a stress test to show how tough this stuff can be if done right. So this is just a wire brush that I would use to clean a file or something. I can tell that this is the glass side and this is the medium side. So just I wonder if the autofocus will actually do this right, but clumsy. It's still there, and it's not really done much. So in the end, what it really takes is the same amount of pressure that it would take to scrape glass, which here's some very sharp scissors. So let's see what that does. Yeah, it has about the same effect as it would on actual glass. You can see a little bit of a mark. Maybe you can't. Anyway, it does very well. So, 2 last things. I'm gonna give a little better demonstration of the translucence of these by putting them on yellow paper and just showing you where it shows through a little better. So this, you can see how much easier to see through that is than when you've seen it previously in this video. This one has a lot of kind of pale gray areas because I would have had to make the picture higher concentration to get more differentiation. This one is good. I might do some alterations on it if I end up using it, but generally good. All the pigment that was on it is still there. A little bit of the paper that was in it, I think, is still on it down there, but and this is probably the nicest one of the batch. So I'll do something cool with that, and I hope you'll stay tuned to find out what it is. The last consideration that I'll mention is not only think of if it's safe for you, think of it safe for other people who will handle it in the future. So like if you've got a curator or whoever's installing a show and they're going to be putting it up and handling it, I like to try and have things pass the iRub test, which is to me just, can they touch this piece for a prolonged time and then rub their eye? Is that safe for them? So that's good to think about if you're gonna be handing anything off to someone else and then not be there. And this video is too long. I'm definitely gonna try and get it up on Vimeo ASAP. But thanks so much for listening for however much you did listen. Don't blame me for skipping around, but thanks very much. Bye.